Hello and welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. My name is Natalie Himmelrich. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is completely self-funded, produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. Consider making a small donation to support the podcast. Go to bit.ly/support, capital G, capital T, and podcast. I repeat, bit.ly/supportgt podcast. Thank you so much. And for more information, please visit Natalie's website, join the podcast Instagram page, and subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates on future episodes. Welcome to this special series on the many faces of trauma. In each episode, we'll explore one trauma type in a clear, gentle way, what it is, how it can show up in daily life, and one small step that can help your nervous system feel a little safer. Nothing here is meant to diagnose you, and you're always invited to take what fits and leave the rest. And because this is trauma work, we'll end every episode with a short grounding practice you can do anywhere. Today we're talking about migration and displacement trauma, how losing a home, language, community, and familiar identity can impact the nervous system. This is general and non-graphic, but it can be deeply personal. Again, you're welcome to pause, take breaks, and return when you feel ready. Why this topic is both trauma and grief. Migration trauma is often misunderstood because people assume it's only about the reason someone moved. But migration and displacement can be traumatic even when the move was chosen, even when it was for a better life. Why is that? It's because the nervous system is built for familiarity, predictability, and belonging. And migration often involves multiple layers of loss. The loss of the physical place, the language that shaped your personality, the social cues you knew by heart, the community that held you, the identity you had in your home culture, and sometimes the role you once played, be that professional, in your family, or socially. So it is both a trauma pathway, ongoing stress, uncertainty, vigilance, and a grief pathway, loss of home, status, belonging. This episode is about naming both, without pathologizing the immigrant experience. So let's have a look at a simple definition of what migration and displacement trauma is. Migration and displacement trauma happens when the process of leaving, relocating, or rebuilding life overwhelms the nervous system through loss, uncertainty, social threat, or prolonged stress, especially when there is limited control and limited support. This can show up in many situations. For example, forced displacement or sudden relocation, a long stressful migration process, asylum procedure and legal uncertainty, family separation, cultural isolation or discrimination and social exclusion, economic instability in the new place, or language barriers that reduce agency, maybe even a professional status loss where skills are not recognized, and a chronic pressure to adapt quickly. And again, not everyone experiences this as trauma, but many do, especially when stress is prolonged and support is limited. So imagine someone who moves to a new country and finds that everything that once made life effortless now takes energy. They can't express themselves with the same nuance. They don't know the social rules. They hesitate before speaking, afraid of misunderstanding. They miss the casual belonging of their home culture, being greeted, being known, being able to joke without translating themselves. On paper, they're safe, but inside, their nervous system stays on alert. Your nervous system might be scanning for rejection, worrying about paperwork, trying not to be a burden, or working twice as hard to prove that you belong. People in this case, at night, they miss home in a way that is hard to explain, because it isn't only nostalgia. It's the loss of a nervous system home base. Let's look through the polyvagal lens. So when safety cues disappear. From a polyvagal-informed perspective, safety isn't only the absence of danger, it's the presence of cues that signal, I know how things work here, I understand what's expected, I can get help, and I belong. Migration can remove many of these cues at once. And when cues of safety disappear, the nervous system often shifts towards protection. As we know, the two ways to protect, one is called mobilized protection and the other one shutdown protection. So mobilized protection can look like hypervigilance in public spaces, over-preparing or perfectionism, social anxiety, irritability and quick to overwhelm, or having trouble sleeping. Shutdown protection, on the other side, can look like numbness, a depression-like collapse, withdrawal and isolation, experiencing difficulty initiating, or disassociation and fog. Some people also experience a constant in-between state, functioning but not settled. There's also an identity layer, which is best said in a sense, who am I here? Because migration trauma isn't only about stress, it's often about identity. Because language and culture shapes how we express, for example, humor, warmth, competence, confidence, even our tone and gestures. Many migrants have described feeling younger than their age in the new language, feeling invisible or underestimated, feeling like they lost parts of their personality, feeling grief when professional skills are not recognized, and feeling stuck between cultures, not fully from there anymore, not fully from here yet. This identity disruption can feel destabilizing, especially if the person also carries pressure to be grateful and not complain. So here is a compassionate truth. You can be grateful for safety and still grieve what you lost. Let's have a look at how this can show up in the body, emotionally, in your behavior, and also in the meaning making. Common patterns in the body include chronic tension, fatigue, sleep disruption, digestive issues under stress, and heightened startle responses in unfamiliar environments. Emotionally, these people describe loneliness, homesickness, shame about language or not fitting in, sometimes anger, irritability, and grief that comes in waves. Behaviorally, they might be avoiding social situations or overwork to prove their worth, people-pleasing to stay safe, isolation and staying small, and maybe even constant checking of documents, emails, or deadlines. On the meaning-making level, they might say to themselves, I don't belong anywhere, I'm a burden. I have to earn my place. Or if I stand out, I'm not safe. Again and always, these are patterns and not diagnoses. A couple of supports that are often helpful. 1. Rebuild safety cues intentionally. Create predictable anchors such as routine, familiar music or food, walking routes, a third place, which could be a library, a cafe, a community center. 2. Language compassion. Your nervous system may sound different in a second language. That is not incompetence, that's adaptation. 3. Belonging in small doses. Find one place where you don't have to perform. Might be a group, a class, a community, a friend. 4. Name the grief. Migration includes loss. Naming it reduces shame and helps integrate identity. 5. Support that understands migration. Trauma-informed help that doesn't pathologize culture and that recognizes systemic stressors is important. And for those of you listening who are supporters, avoid sentences starting with "at least." Instead, try "that sounds exhausting," or ask them, "what do you miss most? And how can I support you today?" On a personal note, I moved from Switzerland to Singapore when I was 27, and then again 5 years later to Sydney. And so even though I wouldn't call myself a migrant, I choose to move to those places, I can relate to many of those losses and stressors. And so even though I was English speaking, there were certain things I didn't understand in the Singaporean way they spoke English. There were examples where I was sitting in the bus with a friend and I asked her, "What language are they speaking?" And she said English. Or I was waiting in a shop to be served and people just didn't recognize that I was there. So these are experiences that were completely out of the ordinary of what I was experiencing back home. So our grounding practice for today is what I called 2 homes. This practice is designed to support the identity and belonging layer without forcing anything emotional. Step 1. Take one hand, which represents old home, and place that one hand on your chest. Let it represent where I come from. Step 2, take the other hand and let this represent the new ground. Place the other hand on your belly or thigh and let it represent where I am now. And then step 3. Breath bridge. Inhale gently and imagine the breath moving between the 2 hands like a bridge. And then exhale slowly. And do this for 4 breaths. And one more time. And the last time. And then step 4. Just use those 2 simple sentences. I carry my roots, and I'm allowed to settle here, one step at a time. And if the second sentence is too strong, you could also say, I'm here, one step at a time. I'll repeat, I carry my roots, and I'm allowed to settle here, one step at a time. And then step 5, orient in the room. Look around and name one object that feels neutral or pleasant. Let your system register, I'm here now. If you'd like support as you move through this series, check my website for the free resources offered for both those affected by grief, loss, and trauma, and those supporting them. In the next episode, we'll talk about community shock and public tragedies, how collective events affect grief and trauma responses, and what helps in the aftermath. Until then, look after yourself and stay safe. Thanks for listening to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. If you'd like to be updated on future episodes, please subscribe to our newsletter on nataliehimmelrich.com. If you need grief support, please contact me for a 30 minutes free discovery session. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. To support this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you. And remember to keep breathing. I promise it will get easier.